welcome back to the Analyst of Vajiram and Ravi, where we bring to you detailed discussion of important articles from Hindu and Indian Express. Today is 22nd of October and let's look into the table of contents. So in the first one, we will do a detailed discussion of all that you need to know about the history of Israel and Palestine conflict. In the second article, we will perform evaluation of Privileges Committee as it has been seen under recent rows that the partisan role of parliamentary panels have came into fore. Next, due to rising pollution in Delhi NCR region, Delhi has entered into the stage 2 of graded response action plan with immediate effect. So we will be looking into the same. In the next article, we will read about the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations in light with the diplomatic spat going on between India and Canada. And in the last, we will see a project of Indian Army to synchronize the learnings from ancient text into the modern defense technologies. So let's get started. In the first topic, we will read about the history of the Israel-Palestine conflict. What is the context running? The context is the unfortunate exponential rise in the number of deaths that are happening across Israel and Palestine due to the recent war that is going on between Israel and Hamas. As many as 1,400 Israeli and at least 4,000 Palestinians have been killed so far. So therefore, it becomes very essential for us to understand the entire history and background of this bloodshed. Now, the story begins. So let me take you back to the time, to some 1,000 years back. This is the time of 1700 BC. Here takes place the formation of Israel for the first time. How? So what happens? There is a land of Canaan that is considered as a holy place for Judaism. Why? Because the forefathers or the patriarchs of Judaism, this particular religion, started settling in this land of Canaan. Canaan consisted of the area of Syria, Israel, and Jordan. It was also said in the Hebrew Bible that land that is to the west of the Jordan River will be considered as a promised land, one that is promised by the God to the Jew people who are the followers of Judaism. So, this land to the left came to be known as Israel. Now, why is it known as Israel? It is named after the grandson of Abraham. Who is Abraham? Abraham is considered as the founding father of the three religions. These religions are Judaism, Islam, and Christianity, because they have got common founding father. Therefore, these are also collectively known as the Abrahamic religions. Now, it was seen that the region of Israel is occupied predominantly by the Jews and hence starts the formation of Israel. Eventually, after some years, some 1,000 years, so after 1000, during 1000 BC, it was seen that the monarchy started establishing itself in the region of Israel. The first king was King Saul, who initiated the establishment of a consolidated, a united kingdom of Israel. Not only that, his son, King David, established his capital city in the Jerusalem city. So now Jerusalem is considered as the capital of Israel in the history. Also, first temple in the Jerusalem was built by a very prominent ruler, King Solomon, whose reign saw the zenith, the golden empire of the entire Israel during that period. Now, what happened after the death of Solomon? The empire started disintegrating itself. Fragmentation started. Definitely for centralized polity weakens, you will be seeing a lot of fragmented units. And these two units were Kingdom of Israel and Kingdom of Judah. So in the year of 1931 BC, you will see this united Israeli monarchy, to get split into the northern region, which is known as the Kingdom of Israel, with its capital at Samaria, and the second one, the Judah region, the capital of which is Jerusalem. So now the capital of Jerusalem is shifted to the southward region, to the empire of Judah. Now what happens? As we know, whenever the centralized polity weakens, the state becomes vulnerable to a lot many attacks. And so was the case of Israel. Israel was very consolidated, very powerful during Solomon, but once Solomon died, after that it was seen that a lot of attacks started happening in Israel. The first attack came in the form of the attack of Roman Empire, a very mighty, very powerful empire. So Roman Empire attacked, and you know Roman Empire belongs to, or it basically preaches the Christian religion. Now, they will try to convert the province of Judah into a Christian province, thereby bringing the second religion into this area. So that second religion is Christianity, and due to its Christian name, the Judah will be known as Palestine from now. So this is the first time a part of Israel was started being called as Palestine. Now comes the second attack. Definitely whenever attacks are happening, the Jew people will be persecuted and they will be forced to flee away. They will flew away far off in the Middle East or prominently in the European regions. Why? Because they had some commonality with the Christianity. Christianity is also a subsect of the Judaism only. So therefore they thought that this is the second motherland. So they started fleeing off to Europe region. Now, when the second Arab conquest happens in 636 CE, then it was seen that the entire geopolitics was changed. So what happened? There was a Jew temple, as we have seen that certain Jew temples started getting established by King David and after his successors, that a lot of Jew temples were established in the place of Jerusalem. Now, these temples were demolished, and instead of in their place, a dome of rock was built in the Jerusalem by the Arab conquerors. This again led to the establishment of the third religion in this region, which is the religion of Islam. So now this region is seeing the three religions. One is your Judaism, which is the ancient homeland of which has the ancient homeland in Israel. Then second comes Christianity with the Roman attack, and then comes the Islam religion with the attack of Arabs. So what happens, especially when the Seljuk Turks attacked on the Jew land, that it caused mass scale or massive persecution of the Jews. A lot of them were forced fled out of Israel region and they moved into Europe, as I have already told. Now with the massive conquest of the Turks unfolds the story of Palestine. So as you can see that the Turks have been, or the Arabs have been very prominent conquerors around the Mediterranean Sea. So a lot of the part was occupied by the Ottoman Empire. So from 16th century till the end of First World War, that is 1917, we will be seeing the entire border, especially the holy sites, especially the region of Israel, to be occupied by the Ottoman Empire. They have recognized this region not as Israel but as the land of Palestine. And meanwhile, what is happening in Europe? Because a lot of Jews have been fled into the region of Europe, they want to come back now. They want to contribute into their own economy. They want to visit their ancient motherland. So therefore, a movement will start in the Europe, especially in the Russian part, which is known as the movement of Zionism. It aims to create a national state for the Jews in their own ancient homeland of Israel. So now, led by Theodor Herzl, this movement tactically planned that the rich Jews will be going to the Israel region and they will be purchasing land, a lot of land from the Arabs. And eventually, they will make the poor Jews that are coming from Europe to settle down in the lands that are purchased by them. So in this way, they will eventually be able to conquer the land of Israel from the Arabs. So now what happens? The Second World War ends. It leads to the fall down of the Ottoman Empire because it has been overrun by the British. Now comes the establishment of British Empire in the region of Israel. So while the Jews are trying to resettle themselves back into their land, the political power has been assumed by the British. As soon as it has assumed the power, it divides the entire Israel region into two zones. One that is controlled by the French, named as French zone. The second that is considered by or covered by British, that is the British zone. In order to apply their administrative machineries, their laws and regulations, British will be officially declaring this region as the British Mandate for Palestine. Why Palestine? Because this is the name given by the Christian religion to this region. Now what happens? Jews have been recognized very respectfully by the British because they know that a lot of investments that have come to the Industrial Revolution back in Europe is because of the investments given by the rich Jews. So they also want to appease them, but at the same time they realize the political scenario going on, the tussle going on between the Turks, between the Arabs and the Jews. So they want to exploit this tension as well. So they will perform an appeasement policy or a divide and rule kind of policy where they will enforce the Balfour Declaration. This will promise the UK or the British Parliament will promise Jews their national home in the region of Palestine, in the region of Israel. This will make the Jews very happy. It has become effective from 1923, but it will make the Arab people who are living in Palestine very sad because their resources are getting competed. Their land is getting snatched away. They will definitely not like it. So therefore, the tension between the Jews and the Arabs started escalating after this period, after the Balfour Declaration. Now what is happening in the decade of 1930s? Here, the growth of Nazi under Hitler is seen in the region of Germany. Now, they have started brutally prosecuting the Jews that are living over there. And therefore, massive influx of Jews is taking place from Germany to their homeland, to their safe land or their promised land of Israel. As a result of this, the Arabs that are living in Palestine, they went to the British and said that why are you allowing so many people here? It will only lead to competition of resources and further conflicts. This will also hamper your law and order. Why are you doing this? So then the British comes into play and they play a very tactic game. That is, they imposes restricted immigration laws on the Jews that are coming. This will upset the Jews. So Jews will start forming militias against both the Arabs people who are living in Palestine and the British who are ruling over there. Not only that, there will be a Holocaust which will be seen in the Nazi Germany where a lot of people, in fact 6 million Jews were killed directly and the others desperately moved into their safe homeland of Israel. This further, because the influx has been increased, therefore, the tensions will also start increasing during the Second World War between the Arabs and the Jews that are living in Palestine. Now, upon realizing the complexity of the situation, Israel realizes one thing, that I cannot handle this situation. So it is better for me to give this matter to United Nations and let me withdraw from this place. This is very similar of what British did with us also when they realized that the thing is moving out of hand. So therefore, a very similar move was taken by British here also. Now what happens? What leads to the rise of Israel state? So when United Nations comes into play, a committee was formed. India was a member of that committee in order to create a plan for the peace and the ceasefire in the Israel-Palestine region. So in 1947, the same year when the India got independence, United Nations came with a plan of partition of Israel and Palestine. So it was decided that a two-state solution, this question was asked in UPSC prelims, that a two-state solution will be created where the entire nation will be divided on the basis of religion. Half of the region will be given to Jews, the blue part, and the red part will be given to the Arabs. What about the Jerusalem? So Jerusalem will be considered or given a special status and will be considered as an international zone which is directly regulated by United Nations. So this is what was the plan. But the plan of division, the way it was divided, became a bone of contention again between the Jews and the Arabs. Arabs realized that Jews who are having less than 1/3 of the population are given more than 50% of the land in the nation. More than 56% of land was given. As a result of this, Arab militias started sprouting in different parts of Israel in order to retaliate against this United Nations plan. And their main agenda was to overthrow the Israel and completely capture the place of Israel, because Israel right now has not officially announced itself as an independent state. So they had some chances, they wanted to take benefit of that chance, and as a result of this, the militia started creating a lot of violence in the region. But now from 1948, when the British formally declared their withdrawal from the region, the Israel declared itself as an independent state. This immediately triggered the Arab people, the Arab League or the Arab states of Jordan, Egypt, Syria, and the Palestinians that were living in the Israel region. So all of them came together and the Arab League attacked the Israel. Now, as a result of this war, Israel emerged victorious, and it was seen that a ceasefire agreement was set in place in order to promote peace in this region. So, the ceasefire eventually led to the fragmentation of the entire Israel. So, what happens now? This war has led to the winning of Israel. It has led to partial winning of Jordan. It has led to complete defeat of the Palestinian and the Egypt. So as a result of this, Gaza Strip was completely occupied from the Egypt. West Bank was occupied from Jordan. Golan Heights was occupied by Syria. And most of the Palestinians that were now living in the Israel, about 75,000 of them were expelled away from Israel. This the Arabs called as the Great Catastrophe or Al-Nakba. Now what happened in the following years, in the following decades from 1949 to 67, sporadic escalations took place between the Arabs that were living in the region and the Jews that were living in the region, and it was very natural. But now comes the 6-day war, that is the 1967 Arab-Israeli war. In order to avenge the regions that were taken away by the Israel, countries like Jordan, Syria and Egypt attacked back on the Israel. Again, Israel emerged victorious because of its military powers. So now it will be acquiring Golan Heights. Golan Heights from Syria, East Jerusalem or the West Bank, and it will be occupying Sinai Peninsula from the Egypt. So now even these regions, these territories are snatched away from Israel. So Palestinians were not allowed to live in any other region but these 3 regions that have been occupied by Israel. Now comes the Intifadas. Intifadas or the rising, violent uprising by the Arabs against the Jews. So now what is happening? In 1987 or decade before that, in 1980s, rise of Palestinian Liberation Organization was seen. This was a militant organization in order to liberate the Palestinian people. Now they objected one thing, that these Jews have already restricted our presence in Meager regions. In the region of West Bank and Gaza Strip, only these regions are available to us. Even Golan Heights have been taken away, and now they are trying to build their presence in these regions also. They are trying to resettle in West Bank also, in Gaza Strip also. So as a result of the retaliation, the PLO got formed. PLO started attacking Israel from different bases. First it started attacking from Jordan. Israel attacked back. Israel moved them away from Jordan, moved them to Lebanon, and the Lebanon base was also attacked. Eventually the PLO realized that we are too weaker in front of Jews. As a result of this, they struck the accord, they struck the peace agreement where they said that we will formally recognize the division between Israel and Palestine. So basically PLO has also agreed somehow, but Israel still started having its notorious occupation across West Bank and Gaza Strip. Now all of this was going on till a trigger happened where the Israeli Defense Forces truck collided with a van that was having civilians of Arabs. And it led to the killing of 4 civilian Arabs or 4 civilian Palestinian people. Now, as a result of this, a violent uprising took place, and this was led by PLO against Israel in the year 1987. In order to strike a peace treaty between them, Oslo Accords were signed for the 2 times. First one in Washington DC and the second one in the Egypt region. This led to the division of West Bank in order to make sure that whose territory is whose. So basically the red region will now be directly under Palestinian control. The orange region will be under both Palestinian and Israeli control, and the yellow region will be completely considered to be annexed by Israel. Now Oslo Accords were struck in order to clear the standing and the position of the occupations by Jew people and the Palestinian people in the region of West Bank. So the further decadal years were followed by some peace agreements that they were trying to do, but there was some bone of contentions going on. First was the confusion over the state of Jerusalem. Whose holy site is it? Whose capital is it? Second, the refugee rights of the Palestinians. Second, growing Jew settlements that was seen furthermore in the West Bank region. Now comes the second trigger of the event, of the Intifada. The second trigger was the arrival of Ariel Sharon, who was a Jew diplomat who later on became the Prime Minister of Israel. Ariel Sharon visited to a temple mound, and this temple mound of Jews were built over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Now it was interpreted by the Arabs as an encroachment on the holy site, on their holy site. So as a result of this, the Intifada or the uprising, the violent uprising again broke out in the region. It led to heavy casualties, and there were two major results from it. First of all, Israel decided that we will try to evacuate ourselves from the Gaza Strip, but our blockade will continue. Even till today, Gaza, which is politically ruled by Hamas, is also under the blockade right now. We have also read about the crossings in the lecture of 16th and in the lecture of 20th of October. So you can visit that. Now, two things happened. First of all was the withdrawal of the Israel from Gaza Strip. And second, it started continuing its settlement in the West Bank. Now, this is of course not what the Arab wanted. So now, frustrated from this came the emergence of Hamas. Hamas is also coming out as a result of split in the Palestinian Liberation Organization. So the PLO was ruled by Fatah, and Fatah had some differences with the another sect of PLO who called themselves as Hamas, and they gained political power over the newly acquired Gaza Strip. Because Gaza Strip was already going under blockade, it could see a lot of hostilities by the Israeli people. Now, as a result of this, the Hamas started attacking Israel in many ways and eventually led to eruption of the Gaza wars. There were three prominent Gaza wars in the region fought between Hamas and the Israel government. First one was 2008 Operation Cast Lead, then Operation Pillar of Defense, then Operation Protective Edge. So these three happened against Israel. Israel again came out to be victorious, and Hamas realized that we cannot fight with this organization, with this government alone. So what we need to unify back with the PLO. So hence in 2014, after getting defeated three times, Hamas joined hands with PLO and led to the creation of National Unity Government in order to create a unified Palestine state in the region of Israel. Now comes the US politics. US diplomacy changed the course of the interpretation of Israel, because already peace agreement was going on, but then US eventually shifted its embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. This was seen by Arabs, this was seen by Palestinians as a conquest or as a recognition by a global superpower that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel. This again offended them and again started a series of conflicts. So from 2021, again many of the conflicts resumed between Hamas and the PLO, which is the National Unity Government, and your Israel. As a result of this, in order to strike peace in the region again, comes a ceasefire which is mediated by countries like Egypt. So Egypt was the first Arab state to officially recognize the Israel state. So Egypt, Qatar and United Nations again brokered a ceasefire agreement, which eventually led to the peace agreement between these two regions. But as we know, Israel-Palestine region is nothing but a ticking time bomb. It could erupt any time. And right now, as the things escalate, we are seeing that the bomb has finally been trickled. So this was the history of Israel and Palestine. Now coming to the second topic here, the opposition MP of Bahujan Samaj Party, Danish Ali, has accused the parliamentary panels, the Ethics Committee and the Privileges Committee, of following partisan role or giving differential treatment to the members of ruling party and the MPs of opposition party. So what is the accusation going on? See, according to the set standard privileges or set standard parliamentary procedures, If a complaint is filed against someone who is the accused person, then according to the procedures that are established, the first person to be called upon by the privileges committee should be the complainant and not the accused. But in this particular case where Danish Ali, who is MP of opposition party and who has filed a breach of privileges complaint against an MP of ruling party, so here it has been seen that the accused have been called before. So this concern has been flagged in this particular case. It pertains to GS2 part of the syllabus where we read about working of parliamentary democracy and parliamentary committees. So now we will evaluate the privileges committee in detail. So first of all, what are privileges committee? See, the committees of parliament are divided into two broad types. One is the standing committee, the second is the ad hoc committee, depending upon what is the permanency of the tenure. If it is a permanent committee, then it is a standing one. If it is working on an ad hoc basis, case to case basis, then it is a ad hoc committee. Our privileges committee is a standing committee to perform inquiries on the cases of breach of privilege. And not only that, it also recommends the actions that needs to be taken against those people. So, because it has got the power to inquire, can we also say that it has got semi-judicial jurisdiction? Yes. Now, coming to the second aspect, that is the composition of the privileges committee. This committee exists in both the houses. There is a Lok Sabha committee comprising of 15 members, which is headed by the Speaker of Lok Sabha, and the second one is in the Rajya Sabha. Rajya Sabha committee comprising of 10 members, which is headed by the Deputy Chairman of Rajya Sabha. Now, what are the conditions of admissibility? While the MPs have got the right to ask questions regarding the breach of parliamentary privileges, there are certain criteria and thresholds that their question needs to pass before it gets admission by the parliament. So the first is, it requires the consent of the chairman of that working committee. Second, the matter of question should be of recent occurrence and not of ages old. Second, the matters require intervention of council, and this has to be established that urgent deliberation, urgent intervention of the council is required in this particular case. Once your question passes these criteria, it will be admitted to the Parliamentary Privileges Committee. Because it examines the parliamentary privileges, now let's try to understand what are parliamentary privilege. So these are the rights and immunities that are given not only to the parliament but also to the parliamentary committees and also to the member of parliaments in order to perform their duties and functions that are entrusted to them upon by the Indian Constitution. Now, because the Indian Constitution is trying to safeguard their privileges, there are certain provisions in the Constitution itself. The first one is the Article 105, which enumerates multiple types of privileges that are available at collective level and at individual level. Second, the right of safeguard or right to protection of these privileges is given under Article 194. The parliamentary privileges are broadly divided into collective privilege, one that is enjoyed by parliamentary committees and by the entire council, and second is that which is enjoyed by individual parliamentarians in individual capacity. So what are these? Let's quickly read about it. The collective privileges of the parliament includes the right to publish and the right to prevent the publication of the reports or the debates or the proceedings that have been going on in the house. Second, to make rules or govern its own procedures and its commercial activities. Next, right to immediate notification about a member's arrest or his custody or any other conviction or imprisonment against him. Next, courts are not at all allowed to investigate into the proceedings of the committees. This is also considered as a breach of privilege. Also, without the consent of the presiding officer of the house, no one, whether a member or an outsider, can be arrested or a legal process can be initiated against him. Now, what are the individual privileges that are given to parliamentarians? This is, first of all, no member will be arrested once the session of the legislature have started. So, 40 days before the commencement of the session and 40 days after the end of the session, a person or an MP cannot be arrested at any cost. But this is only for the civil matters, not applicable for preventive detention and criminal matters. Next, members have got right to free expression, which means that no member of parliament or any committee is accountable in any court of India for anything said by him or any vote that is given by him. This also ensures autonomy and independence of the working of MPs. Next, they have right to decline to give the evidence and testify against themselves in the court. So these are some of the privileges that are enjoyed by the parliamentarians, but then there are certain loopholes as well which are identified of late. So what are the loopholes in the working of privilege committee? First of all, there is lack of determination or lack of clarity on the boundaries of the privilege. What constitutes a privilege and a breach of privilege? That is not very clear, which leads to subjectivity, and it also creates a challenging atmosphere in interpreting whether the breach has happened or not. An example would be Dilip Singh Judev versus Election Commission of India case of 2002, where the debate was whether the proceedings of the parliamentary committee that is discussed by the Indian court comes under parliamentary breach of privilege or not. So that was the entire legal debate about in this case. Second is the role of party politics or party whips. So because of this, it affects the independence and impartiality of the privileges committee. You can see from some examples, from the recent example only, you can see that if a person is from ruling party, he is given more preferences, more advantages as compared to if a person has been convicted and belongs to the opposition party. Also in the Shri Sibu Soren versus Secretary General Lok Sabha 2007 Act, it was seen that the allegations of the misconduct, the allegations that were put up by the opposition party member to the ruling party member, this was given a differential treatment again. Second is the enforcement of recommendations. We know that privileges committee is only recommendatory in nature. At max it can perform inquiry, but it has got no powers, no teeth to enforce these recommendations. So it was seen in Pandit MSM Sharma versus Shri Krishna Sinha case, where an MP was recognized to have breached the parliamentary privilege, but at the same time he refused to apologize, and there were no measures by which parliamentary committee, the privileges committee, could have made him to apologize. Next, the lack of transparency in the working. They are generally working in the back doors, and hence it also compromises with the transparency and accountability with the working of the parliamentary committee, especially given the amount of political interference of the ruling party that is there in the privilege committee. Next is the legal ambiguities as to what are the areas where the applicability of the law or applicability of the privileges and breach applies to. So this was seen in Kehar Singh case and others versus Union of India case, where the case was against the assassination of the then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. So the whole debate was whether Kehar Singh should be given parliamentary privilege, or is he entitled to the parliamentary privileges being the accused of the case while also being the MP of parliament. Next, the party whips and the votings. So taking stand against an accused party member has become very, very difficult, because you have to comply even if you know that your own political party person has created the breach of or has conducted the breach of privilege. Still, you will not be able to take stand against him due to the fear of the party whip. Second is, there is high bar of disqualification. You need to be a really big criminal in order to be disqualified. If you have done petty crimes like cash for query scheme that is going on recently, and also one that was going on in UK in 2005, all of these people were free from the convictions. And you will see that the horrendous cases like 2G scam, the Colgate scam, only there the parliamentary privilege committee has been invoked. So here you will see that there are some loopholes going on. So what is the way forward? It is very simple. First is to have clearer standard operating procedures and guidelines in order to have clarity and standardized procedure in handling the cases. This is also, we can also take the example of a case study, which is the UK's House of Commons Procedure Committee, which has set up a proper standard procedure through which the determination of privileges and the breach is done very, very objectively. The second thing is to have non-partisan and independent selection of the members which are working in the selection committee. So as a result of this, it will help us to have more objective decision making in the Privileges Committee. Next, strengthening transparency and accountability. How can we ensure that the procedures, the proceeding and the report should come out in the public about the Privileges Committee more often than not? An example is the regular proclamation of the reports of different parliamentary panels of the Canadian House of Commons. There is a subcommittee on Parliament which publishes its report on an online portal on a regular basis. Next is to have strong enforcement mechanism. We have to give more teeth to the Privileges Committee so that it can enforce the recommendations and the penalties against the breachers. Second, active engagement with the judiciary. This is also highlighted by judiciary itself in the Raja Rampal versus Honorable Speaker Lok Sabha 2007 case, where the judiciary role has been seen very crucial in ensuring the fairness and transparency in the disposal of such cases. They will not only provide their expert advices but will also help us to gain clarity on many of the judicial cases. Okay, next, proactive dissolution of disputes is very, very important, because justice delayed is justice denied, and as a result of this, the escalation of issues can also take place. So in order to, if we perform all these suggestions in the rightful manner, we will be able to ensure efficient and transparent working of the Parliamentary Committee of India. Coming to the third topic, this one talks about GRAP, the Graded Response Action Plan, which has been triggered with immediate effect as the air quality index of the Delhi NCR reaches the very poor category. It pertains with prelims part of the syllabus. We have to read about pollution and environment conservation. Also, this topic is very often asked in the prelims examination also. So first of all, what is a Graded Response Action Plan? The pollution governance of NCR region is such that we have divided the entire governance in the form of grades. Grades which are distinguished with multiple thresholds or multiple limits. So what is a graded response action plan? The moment a particular threshold is triggered, a set of emergency measures that are given within this grade is made to be came into effect. So these are set of emergency measures which are invoked immediately after the threshold of a grade crosses its index in order to prevent further degradation of air quality in NCR region. So it started, or it got notified in 2017 as a result of judicial activism under the MC Mehta case. Now, who performs the implementation of the GRAP in the NCR region? It is a statutory body that was formed after 2021. So what happened before 2021? There was Environmental Prevention, Protection and Control Authority, EPCA, that was formed by Supreme Court, and it was replaced by a statutory organization under the Government of India Act, under the EPA Act of 1986. So this was Commission for Air Quality Management in the Delhi NCR region. So this statutory organization is responsible for implementing the measures of GRAP in NCR region on the basis of two factors. First of all, it checks the air quality. Air quality is checked with the help of certain metrics, for example, the SAFAR index, for example, National Air Quality Index, and by several meteorological forecasts that are done by Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology of Pune and the IMD, Indian Meteorological Department. So on the basis of these two parameters, it performs the implementation of GRAP. Now, what is this first metric? The metric that is primarily used for determination of the amount of pollution, which is National Air Quality Index. So this was launched in 2014 as the one number, one color and one description for a common man to very easily understand the level of pollution going on around his vicinity. So it includes 8 pollutants in total. Their levels or their presence in the atmosphere is measured, and on the basis of this, the entire index is divided into 6 zones from severe to good quality. What are the pollutants that it includes? It includes 2 particulate matters, PM10 and PM2.5, then nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, ammonia and lead. Along with this, a very important pollutant and a lesser known one, which is ozone. Ozone is also included in NAQI, something that you need to remember for prelims. Now, what is the working of NAQI? NAQI takes into account another different standards, which is the Suffer Index and the NAQS. So the National Ambient Air Quality Standard actually has 8 parameters or 8 pollutants which are similar to that included in NAQI, but at the same time includes 4 more. These are benzene, benzopyrene, arsenic and nickel. So total 12 pollutants are calculated by the National Ambient Air Quality Standards of India. The second metric is the SUFFER system, the system of air quality measurement and the weather forecasting. This forecast, see what happens, this graph which has been, the graph of stage 2 which has been invoked, is not invoked on the day when the measure or the metric has reached 301 to 400. It has been done proactively 3 days before, that is 72 days before the prediction or the weather forecast of this level of pollution. So this weather forecasting is done using the SUFFER system. So this is a real-time air quality index which works on a 24/7 basis with different color codings, total 6 color codings, and it has got the first air quality early warning system of Delhi. Not only that, it has the 8 pollutants that are given in the NAQI and some extra which are benzene, toluene, xylene and mercury as well, which are prominent vehicular pollutants. Now what is the working of GRAP? Let's understand the mechanism. So what happens? Suppose the AQI has predicted or find the pollutant level of multiple pollutants such that there is the presence of 58 micrograms per meter cube of PM10, 58 of PM2.5 as well, which means that both of them are equal, but not both of them are equally harmful. In fact, PM2.5 is more harmful. So the degree of harm that the pollutant has is also multiplied with the pollution level. It is multiplied with a pollution level and then a complete pollutant subindex is created. Now the subindex says that the levels of PM2.5 is the highest. So whichever parameter, whichever pollutant scores the highest in the level of pollution, that designates the worst value or that designates the value of AQI of the NCR region. So this is how NAQI calculates the air quality of the NCR region. Now, in accordance with the air quality standards, see in this particular case, very poor region have been triggered, which is the range of 301 to 400. So this will call for triggering of a different set of emergency measures. What are these? So in the very poor segment, we have the following measures: to stop using diesel generators, to increase the bus and metro service and increase the frequency of the metro services, and also to stop entirely the use of coal and firewood in hotels and in open eateries. So these are specific emergency provisions that are adopted by the government in order to have a graded response to the rising air pollution in the Delhi NCR region. Coming to the second last topic, here we will talk about diplomatic relation between India and Canada and Vienna Convention and how is it in news. So what is the context? To bring the diplomatic parity, India has asked Canada to withdraw 41 diplomats, with Canada has challenged as a violation to Vienna Convention. Whether this is a true violation or not, we will read by reading the different provisions of Vienna Convention. So what has happened in order to bring the diplomatic parity? Because what is happening? There are total 62 diplomats of Canada that were working in Indian region, in the India. And there were total 21 diplomats of India that were working in Canada. So there is a huge disparity between the number of diplomats. As a result of this, India has called upon Canada to withdraw 41 of its diplomats so that in both the sides, 21 and 21 diplomats can stay. Now, what is Vienna Convention? Vienna Convention is a set of a convention or an international treaty which sets down the rules and regulations for the diplomats that are working across the borders. So it got adopted in 14th of April 1961 as a result of United Nations Conference on Diplomatic Intercourse and Immunities. Finally, in the year 1964, it got enforced and currently it is having membership, a near universally ratified membership of 193 member countries, with only Palau and South Sudan being the exceptions. Now, what are the key provisions that we need to read? First of all, the accountability of the host nation. Now, if a host nation is hosting diplomat of a particular or any mission, diplomatic mission of a particular country, of any country, then the security responsibility of the diplomat and his families is a complete accountability of the host nation. This is the first provision. Second is the concept of inviolability. Certain protections are inviolable when it comes to the diplomats which are functioning in the host country. First is the inviolability of the mission premises. You cannot enter the premises, the offices of the diplomats, the houses of the diplomats without the permission of the chief. Second is the inviolability of the rights of the persons of diplomatic agents. So they cannot be arrested or any criminal sanction cannot be imposed upon them by the host state. This is again another security, another freedom that is given to them. Now, what is the authority of the host state? Because it has got a huge responsibility, huge accountability of protecting the diplomat, it has also got some authority. The first one is to regulate the entering and remaining of the diplomats in the host state. Second, to expel the envoys if the country wants. And under Article 11.1, which is very important from this article point of view, that in the absence of specific agreements with regards to the size of the mission, they have the right to manage or regulate the permissible limits of the diplomats that should be working in their country. So therefore, this action of India to call upon for the withdrawals of Canadian diplomat is not really against the violation or not violating the Vienna Convention. Next is the free communication, which is given under Article 27. So the diplomats that are working in the host nation, in whichever condition they are, whether in a warlike scenario or in a peaceful scenario, they have the permission to communicate through appropriate means. This could be through the form of couriers, through the form of codes. What is the significance of Vienna Convention? It has laid down the cornerstone of the modern international relations across the world. There have been two instances. First one, the Cuban Missile Crisis. Second, the Iranian host state crisis, in which the impact of Vienna Convention was seen in resolving the international relations or the international tussle. So what happened during Cuban Missile Crisis? It ensured the establishment of direct communication link between the US Prime Minister John F. Kennedy and the Russian Prime Minister Khrushchev. Secondly, it ensured the safety of the US diplomats that were working in Cuba. And second, is also ensured that the Soviet missiles that have been planted in the Cuban region, they get withdrawal. Second was Iranian hostage crisis. So a lot of US people, US soldiers were taken hostage. So the US embassy was overrun by the revolutionaries, by the Iranians. As a result of this, many civilians were killed and a lot of people were taken, a lot of personals were taken under hostage. So this particular Vienna Convention ensured that humanitarian aid like the healthcare facilities, the medical facilities, the food, the water, that is getting delivered to the US hostages. It also led to the negotiations for the release of the US hostage. So this is how it has been working fine in the international relations context. Coming to the last article, this is about the project Udbhav by the Indian Army. It is launched by the Indian Army to integrate India's ancient strategic wisdom with the modern capabilities of militaries. Let's quickly read about the key features. What is the idea? The idea is that India is having a lot of Indian ancient texts or treaties through which we can gain some wisdom on statescraft and protection. Now, at the same time, this needs to be augmented, or the gap between the modern technologies, modern defense technologies, contemporary military practices and the ancient wisdom needs to be bridged. The gap needs to be bridged. So as a result of this, a research project named Project Udbhav has been launched by Indian Army. What are the deliverables? First of all, to ensure that we learn from the Indic heritage of statescraft. There are so many treatises that has been given in this particular article. The mention of Arthashastra has been there. Arthashastra by Kautilya shows that how Mandal theory can work, how we can perform diplomatic relations, how we can pursue diplomatic relations with different kind of neighbors, with different kind of international states. Next is Niti Sar by Kamandaki. Then Mahabharat, which teaches you how to overcome the Chakravyuh challenge and other many military strategies. And next is Thirukullar. Thirukullar talks about having ethical code of conduct, of following ethics in the warfare-like situation also. This is also in line with the current code of ethics that is followed by the Geneva Convention. So these are the things that we can learn about the following ancient text. A work on research and reading and compilation of the ancient texts has already been undergone by the Indian Army Training Command, and it has created a compendium of 75 stratagems, which has included all these tactics, ancient tactics, in order to augment the modern military capabilities. Second is to educate the military leaders through the life stories of Chhatrapati Shivaji, who followed guerrilla warfare tactics and also built naval forts in order to secure his kingdom, and the stories of Maharaja Ranjit Singh, and also the story of a home kingdom, being a very small kingdom, was able to dominate the region for or rule the region for more than 600 years, and it also defeated Mughal Empire a lot many times. So their military strategics, their diplomatic skills can be learned. It also focuses on the emphasis of ethics and diplomacy in the international relations in the segment of military and defense. So it aims to promote the just war principles, the ethics of the warfare, and the principles that are aligned with Geneva Convention, which have already been written in treatises like Arthashastra and in Thirukullar. So we have a lot many things to learn from the ancient rich texts that we have got, and this is how we will be able to augment our military capacities. So this is all about today's discussion. Thank you so much. Have a nice day.